but I just completely forgot. So I can't do my laundry today. It snowed. I'm in a couple of different time zones here, and neither one of them have anything to do with lunch. Hi, I'm Sock Marionette, doing business as Bargain Counter Argument, and I'm a middle-aged lady in a tiara, counting down to Valentine's Day. And today is the 7th day of the countdown. It is February 7th. And because I started on the 1st, that's how that goes. We're getting a little bit of a dusting of powdery snow today. After a few days of no earworm, because my brain was just not interested in being my DJ first thing in the morning, I have one today. I woke up and the song that was going through my mind was Passionate Kisses by Mary Chapin Carpenter. Link in the description. They're very nice for Valentine's countdown. Today's a catch-up day because when I did Flip Through Friday yesterday, I didn't do Meet Cute. I didn't do my story from Meet Cute, and I'd like to say that was intentional, that it didn't really fit in with the format of Flip Through Friday, but actually I intended to do it, and then it just completely slipped my mind at the time, and I didn't remember about it until several hours after I recorded that video. When I was uploading the video, I was writing the description, and I was putting my link to Sarah of Reading Category Romance, who's doing her own Countdown to Valentine's Day, and also to Kristin Lee, who was doing Countdown to Valentine's Day by every day she's recording a short, which is her reaction to the story of the day. And it was like, I was putting her in, and I was like, Kristin's doing this, and I was like, oh, theoretically, I'm reading one of these stories every day as well. But I just completely forgot. So today I'm catching up, and now I have read yesterday's story, which is Somewhere That's Green by... can't remember who wrote it now, by Meredith Russo, and it is about Nia, who is a high school student and is trans, and her a fellow student, a cis girl named Lexi, who has been going out and speaking out against like trans people being able to use the appropriate bathroom, what Lexi would see as the inappropriate bathroom. So they end up both trying out for the school play, which, as you can guess from the title, Somewhere That's Green, is Little Shop of Horrors. So they end up talking. And this is what the design was for those pages. More pretty heart checkerboard. So I enjoyed that story. I thought it was good, and like a lot of the stories I've read so far in this collection, I would like to learn more about Lexi and Nia, what their lives look like going forward. At the same time, it's kind of nice to have a complete short story. So, best of both worlds. So in terms of catching up, okay, now I'm caught up on Meet Cute. I have some stuff to do around the house, laundry and that kind of thing, that I was going to catch up on today. But it snowed, like, this morning. We got a light coating of powdery snow. It's not too bad. If I had to go somewhere, I could, but I don't have to go anywhere, so I don't need to worry about it. But now I feel like it should be a snow day, like, somehow the fact that it snowed and outside means that I don't need to do anything inside. I can't do my laundry today. It snowed. I can't go up to the attic and organize there. It snowed. That kind of thing. So I just kind of feel a little bit blah. I'm not as tired as I was. And I feel blah, but not in like a depressed kind of way, just kind of like undermotivated. And if I get some momentum on my side and get stuff done, super great. I'm into that. If I don't, that's okay. I'll just treat it like a mini break. So this is the thing. I thought, oh, you know what? I'll read one of the shorter category romances that I haven't touched on yet. Category romance lines that I haven't touched on yet. And this is Candlelight Ecstasy Romance, which I forgot to look up how long it ran. It started in, I think, 1980. I'll look it up and I'll have it in the next clip. By Vivian Stevens, who was a pioneering editor of women's fiction and women's romance. And I was going to talk about her today, but I think I'm going to do a separate video just on her. She was pioneering just in general, but also pioneering as an African-American woman who reached some pretty high positions in publishing. And so I think I will do a spotlight video on her after the countdown to Valentine's Day is over, and do that as like kind of like my contribution, as it were, to Black History Month, because I think she's an important figure. So I'll do a separate video for her, because she deserves to be spotlighted on her own and not a flyby as I'm going through my my countdown to Valentine's. But I will be reading this book, and I thought, oh, okay, this is a short book. Not only is it a short book, it's a short book I've read before. It's Breathless Surrender by Kay Hooper, which was published in 1982. It was number 90 in Candlelight Ecstasy Romance, and I don't know that it gives a month. November of 1982, and I read it a few months later in, I think it was just about this time of year. I think it was probably around February or so of 1983. So that was, what, 43 years ago? I would have been 12. And that was when I was, my father was just getting over a health crisis. And I was starting at a new school, and I had a lot of anxiety, and I was reading a lot of romances, just as kind of escapism. And I remember really liking this book. It's a Defrosting the Ice Queen story. And I remember really liking it. And I read it again, I don't know, sometime later. This is not that original copy. Anyway. And I got this in a lot of Candlelight Ecstasy romances. And I thought, oh yeah, I would like to reread this book. And today's going to be the day where I reread it. One of the things I'm going to keep an eye out for is how well does this hold up to, like, does it match my memory of it being a good romance, a good book. And in the last couple of times I've had Midweek Motivation, which is my live stream with sprints that I have Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Please feel free to join us. During the sprints I read, and during the in-between, I kind of updated people on what was going on with the story and how I felt about it. First I read Snowbound Weekend by Amy Lauren. And then did not care for it at all. It's very, it had some potential, but it was very regressive gender relationships. That was Candlelight Ecstasy Romance number 50. So yeah, 40 books before Breathless Surrender. And then this is a reissue, but it's number 22 by the same author, Amy Lauren, Breeze Off the Ocean, which was even worse in terms of the gender politics and the relationship between the male main character and the female main character. So how is this one going to hold up? I remember it as being much better, and that some of the gender politics and the problematic aspects of the relationship were contextual. They made sense within the context of the story, as opposed to these where there was never really any explanation for why the dude was behaving the way he was. The thing is I looked this up, and Amy Lauren is the pen name of Joan Hull. Joan Hull was born in 1935. Kay Hooper was born in 1957. So she's more than 20 years younger than she is, and would have come of age in a much different social context, and would have been, as a writer, approaching things from a different context, I think. I'll see how it holds up and update you. By the way, Kay Hooper has since started writing romantic suspense and thrillers. She writes the Bishop unit, which is like an FBI unit that's comprised of people with various levels of ESP, not necessarily super high levels of ESP, but, you know, unusually good intuition and that kind of thing. I've read a few of those and enjoyed them, but I don't really like thriller mystery series, so nothing wrong with them. It just is not quite the genre I'm into. So she's been doing that. So yeah, so that's the plan for today, is to read today's story in Meet Cute, The Way We Love Here by Danielle Clayton. And this is what the pages look like. And I'll be reading that as well. So I'll keep you updated on what happened. Okay, it's a few hours later. It's about 2:30 in the afternoon. And I just finished Breathless Surrender by Kay Hooper. I decided to just read it in one sitting. Well, almost. I was 10 pages from the end, and this voice calls up from downstairs. It was Mom Marionette wanting to know what we should do about lunch. So I went down to talk to her about it, and I was like engrossed in this book. I was also remembering what it was like to read it 43 years ago. And I was like, I'm in a couple of different time zones here, and neither one of them have anything to do with lunch. So, but we decided to have mac and cheese. So that's, water is boiling for that. So I can finish the book and update you. One of the things I realized I forgot to do earlier was read the summary. I think I forgot to do that a couple of times in the last few videos, but I remember. Breathless Surrender by Kay Hooper. They called her the Ice Princess. Drawn to her like a magnet, men gazed into her violet eyes and longed to shatter the beautiful porcelain mask she wore. But Heather felt nothing. Once it had been different, before her mysterious disappearance from L.A., before the accident. She remembered another Heather, a girl with a fiery temper, ready laughter, and open, trusting heart. But all that was gone, and she knew it was hopeless until, without warning, she found herself thrust into the arms of a compelling stranger whose demanding kisses burned her, whose jet-black eyes challenged her, dared her to remember, to open the door to love she had locked so long ago. So yeah, she had this accident, and she lost her memory for the 6 months prior to the accident, and it said a few weeks after the accident. So she's like missing about 7 years out of her life, and she knows she's different. Like, as the summary says, she knows she's different from before, that she has this emotional numbing. It doesn't describe it that way, but you know, I would. And so it's basically like she has PTSD and memory loss, and the doctors tell her it's because she sustained a blow to her head when she was in the accident, and that's the memory loss is a consequence of that. But she has a couple of different friends who think it's actually because the accident didn't cause the memory loss. It was whatever happened prior to the accident that she's actually just suppressing those memories rather than having like organically lost them. And that turns out to be the case. So she has a destabilizing event. First, she goes to a gallery. It takes place in San Francisco. There's not a whole lot of local color, just a little bit sprinkled here and there. She goes to a gallery and sees a portrait of herself that she has no memory of having posed for, but it's very clearly her. And she also gets this new boss, Adam Blake, the stranger. And these are destabilizing events for her. And she actually has an emotional reaction to these events. Like, she's shocked and surprised by the painting, and then she's actually attracted to Alex, and she has no memory of having been attracted to anyone since her accident. So she's like, what is going on here? Well, of course, as a reader, you know, this is a category romance. It's only 190 pages long, so you know Alex has got to be somehow tied in with those missing months. And that, you know, they had some kind of, and you guess that even though the artist who drew her picture, who painted her portrait, was clearly in love with her and is anonymous, but you know, it's got to be Adam, right? So as the story unfolds, Adam like is trying to provoke a reaction from her, and he behaves in certain ways that if you weren't reading a category romance, if you did not already know where the story was heading, and I knew where the story was heading when I read this back in 1983. Again, because it's category romance, it's only so long, there are only so many characters you can have, although the relationships are very nicely drawn, and she does have, it's not just her and Adam, there's some other people, including her best friend and roommate, who's kind of fun. Anyway, so you're kind of like, you know that Adam knows about their prior relationship, so you know that he's going through it as well. It doesn't exactly justify what he does and how he tries to provoke a reaction from her, but it makes it a little more contextual and a little more understandable, I think. I think that this is a story, it holds up fairly well if you have that foreknowledge, which as a category romance reader, you probably would. I think that this is a book that if it were written today, it would highly benefit from having some kind of dual point of view. It's all from her point of view, and the dramatic irony is that the reader knows what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen because I read it, but also, again, if you're reading category romance, you know what's going to happen because you've read category romance. I think even so, it would benefit from having access to his thoughts while these things are happening. I think what you would lose in suspense, you would gain in understanding. I think that would be a worthy rewrite. So yeah, it's a little bit more a lot more problematic than I remember it being, but then I'm also like 43 years older, and society has taught me things and I've learned things, so society itself has changed, so it's not bad for its time and for the context of the story. I think there's part of it with the mysterious portrait of her that she doesn't remember posing for, and the mystery of what happened during that 7 months or the 6 months prior to the accident. It's almost like a Hitchcock love story. But there aren't any international assassins coming after them or anything like that. But it is kind of like if Hitchcock had a love story that was less problematic than, say, Marnie. Anyway, so I'm not sorry I reread it, and there's no devastating sense of loss because it's more problematic than I remember it being. There's more a sense of knowledge, experience, and wisdom gained. So that was a worthwhile effort, and it was a more emotional kind of journey that I went on than I would normally go on for a category romance, but it was worthwhile. So that was my category romance for today, Candlelight Ecstasy Romance from 1982. And I also read today's story from Meet Cute. I remembered. And that one is, again, that is The Way We Love Here by Danielle Clayton, which is a kind of like a fable. It's a beautiful fable. I really like it. And I don't want to get into it too much, but it takes place on a mysterious island, and people who live on the island, it's a complete society, and they don't know whether or not there's anybody beyond the island on which they live. And neither does the reader, because is it a fantasy world? What is it? I don't know going in, but I did feel like my questions were answered by the end of the story, and it was on the longer side. It was like 25 pages or so, but it was very complete. And I felt like it was a complete experience. Would I have enjoyed reading a longer version of this story? Sure, you bet, why not? But it was complete in itself. So that was Meet Cute for today. We're going to have lunch pretty soon. I don't know if I'm going to do my laundry after lunch or go up to the attic or whatever. We'll see. But I know that I am going to conclude the video now. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please like, comment, share, subscribe, or don't. I am not the boss of you. And I hope you have a good day or night.